One of the problems with the Nintendo Switch 2 for a lot of consumers, at least a vocal minority of consumers, has of course been the game key card situation. Ever since we were introduced to these game key cards, many people have kind of written them off because it's not really the best option for physical games, and it's not really the best option for digital games. If you're someone who purchases digital games, the game key card essentially makes it so that you have to have that game key card in your Nintendo Switch 2 in order to access the game that downloads from the game key card cartridge. So it doesn't really have all the convenience of a strictly digital download because of the fact that you have to have that game key cartridge with you wherever you go and want to play the game. And of course, for physical collectors, the game key card isn't really a physical product. Like, yeah, it has something that you can hold in your hands. It's tangible and you can sell it to people should you want to do that, but it still is reliant on a server. After you purchase the game key card and put the game key card in your Switch 2 and it activates the game and then downloads the game, it still has to check to make sure that that game key cartridge is in your Nintendo Switch 2 system, meaning that, well, it's relying on a server. And if the server goes down, then you're going to have problems with that. Now, this is something we've talked about, really ad nauseum on this channel, and I see the benefits of game key cards and I see some of the drawbacks as well. But one of the main things that I constantly said was, this is something that Nintendo themselves is going to have to fix. Nintendo is going to have to offer multiple cartridge sizes for the Nintendo Switch 2, because as it stands right now, the only cartridge size available for the Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes to a true physical game is a 64 gigabyte cartridge. Now, that seems like a lot of space for smaller games and stuff like that, and you would be right. However, this is a business. If a company is selling a game at a discounted price of $30 or $40, why in God's name are they going to want to purchase a 64 gigabyte cartridge from Nintendo that costs roughly around $20 and then eat up into their profits when they could just do a game key card? So it was definitely reliant on Nintendo offering multiple cartridge sizes for the Switch 2. And it seems like it's actually happened. There are some reports going on out there right now about multiple game physical cartridges coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 at multiple sizes. And there's some positives to this, and there's going to be some discussion to be had as well. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff today on the channel. Hit subscribe if you're new, pal. That would be really cool. So Jordan over at Physical Game Paradise, oh, he actually follows me. Anyone who follows me that I cover in a video, I will automatically follow back because you tolerate me and I'm using your information for, a video. I've had some interesting information. Apparently, Nintendo is now offering smaller cartridge sizes for Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know any more details other than that, but I think it's potentially great news for physicals on the Switch 2. And then he followed it up. This was at 3:06 a.m. Jordan, where do you live, pal? I was up at 3:06 a.m. because I could not sleep because the Knicks won the Emirates Championship Cup, and I was a very excited boy. Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks! But Jordan, I feel like you should have been asleep. But then Jordan does follow it up and say, update. I've had a second source also confirm this to me. So this would essentially be something that is discussed by Nintendo themselves with game developers, and if game developers are starting to chatter about it, then this information is going to get out there. Now, we did have another source come along and talk about this, so we're going to take a look at that now, and this is coming to us from Nintendo, which, they're an established Twitter account. If you're looking for cheap Nintendo stuff, they're always posting sales and whatnot, and they say the following: I can confirm that smaller capacity Switch 2 game cards are in production, but due to chip shortages, it will take some time before we see widespread availability. Despite the smaller capacity, these cards will still be expensive due to rising cost of materials. Game key cards are not going away. So essentially what's happening here is Nintendo is offering multiple cartridge sizes. Now, nobody's really talking about the actual size of the cartridge. But I think by looking at what was available on the Switch 1, we can use some basic logic in order to kind of understand what sizes of cartridges are going to be offered. You might remember on the Switch 1, I believe it was everything from 2 gigs all the way up to 32 gigs in different increments. So you had 32 gigs, 16 gigs, 8 gigs, 4 gigs, and 2 gigs. So with this, I would expect it to be in those same sort of multiples. I don't think you're going to see something like a 2 or a 4 gig. I don't think that's going to be widely available. But I do think there is a good chance that smaller sizes, anywhere from 8 gig to 32 gig, could be potentially offered on the system now, which would solve one main problem: budget games. Budget games aren't going to put their games physically on the Switch 2 if it's going to cost them too much money. It goes back to what we were just talking about with stuff with the, cartridge sizes themselves. That's why so many games like Puyo Puyo Tetris, Yakuza 0, Sonic Generations, they could have put those on physical cartridges, but these were budget games, so it didn't make sense from a perspective of trying to, run a business and make money. If this is going to be chopping into your money, that's not going to make sense. So I would expect that to be what is going to happen. Now, on the flip side of this, there are obviously caveats to this situation. First and foremost, stuff is going up in price. Why is stuff going up in price? I've talked about this a million times, so you better be subscribed to the channel, pal. AI is taking over. And they're building these data centers, and all this stuff is contingent on things like memory, whether it's RAM, whether it's GPUs and CPUs, whether it's micro SD cards, micro SD express cards. It's all contingent on memory and things of that nature. So that's why we're seeing rising costs and stuff like this. And I honestly don't see it getting better anytime soon. The Switch 2 is going to go up in price in 2026. Mark my words on it, along with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Which, you've already raised the price of the Series X twice, so you might as well just get rid of the damn thing. But whatever. This is why these prices are going up. So although Nintendo is going to offer these things, game key cards themselves are not going to go away because some companies are still going to choose to use a game key card. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, it doesn't solve the problem of larger games. Games are not going down in size for the most part. Games are raising in size and constantly going up higher and higher. 100 gigs, 120 gigs, 150 gigs for some larger third-party games. Now, obviously, these games have a lot of bloat tied in with them, but there's never going to be a physical cartridge that's going to be able to handle all of that sort of size, at least anytime soon. That's going to be reasonable in pricing. So then what ends up happening? Well, your larger third-party games are still going to be game key cards or digital-only purchases. That's just a reality of the situation. That's just something that everyone has to accept, whether you like it or not. That's just the way this is going to be. There are also drawbacks to physical cartridges as well, such as the speeds of the cartridges. It has been heavily documented that if you have a game key card or a digital download, those games do run faster than a game key or a game cartridge would. Even with something like Mario Kart World, there is a sizable, I guess it really wouldn't be sizable, but there is a difference in the boot up speed of the game when it is on the system itself via a digital download versus reading off of the cartridge. We've had companies like Ubisoft saying that cartridges don't have fast enough speeds to do some of their engines and stuff like that. So this isn't going to be, a perfect solution or anything like that. There's still going to be problems with this. There's still going to be companies that need to use game key cards. However, I think this is good as an option. I think this is good as offering more options because you're pretty much putting the ball in the court of companies now. If you're doing some random retro game collection or some, retro inspired game, something that's not the biggest game in the world, that doesn't need to have advanced reads and write speeds in order to run on the system. Now you're offering them an option to have a true physical component to what they're doing. And I think that's important. It is a massive step in the right direction to sort of course correct, kind of people's mentalities with this. Now, it'll be interesting to see how many people want to adopt this, how many people are willing to give up the game key card situation in lieu of a true physical release. I mean, this is the point where people have to put their money where their mouth is. We've talked about some physical games on the Switch 2 being a little bit more expensive than they are on other platforms. So you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is, because if enough people start to buy these true physical versions, then it makes sense for companies to want to explore them. But if people aren't buying the true physical versions, then what's the point? It's put up or shut up time with this. And I'm going to be very interested to see how many consumers, will purchase the physical game. I guess if it's only a physical option, then of course they're going to buy that. But if a situation comes out where a company takes a risk, puts a game on a physical cartridge, maybe it costs a few dollars more for the Switch 2 version, will people truly put their money where their mouth is? Or will it just be a situation where the mass market just purchases however the game they can get it for cheaper, whether that's, on another platform or not? It'll be interesting to see, but definitely a step in the right direction. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about all of this? This is pretty much a confirmed thing, as far as there being multiple sizes. Nobody truly knows what the other sizes are going to be, but I think just using historical data, it'll probably be something around 8 gigs, 16, 32. I just don't see the 2 and the 4 really being used, but who knows? Maybe they'll look at something like that. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Be sure to hit that bell as well so you're not missing out on any uploads. How about those Knicks, baby? NBA Cup Championship. It says championship on it. They're hanging a banner. I kind of want one of the hats. This is just step 1 of 2. Next step is the full-on NBA Finals. It's written in the stars now. It's written in the stars, baby. If your team is not a NBA Cup champion in the year of our Lord 2025, I don't want to hear no nonsense. I don't want to hear it. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.